If I was writing a cookbook, this recipe would definitely be in it. Part 11, chai. I've heard people say that you're either a coffee drinker or a tea drinker. Well, in our household, we love them both. We love all types of tea, and we have a pretty considerable tea collection that we use all the time. I love to have a large selection or a choice of what to drink. And so in our kitchen, we have a big space dedicated to our tea collection. This area is what we affectionately call Gen Pop. Anybody can have any tea here anytime. And boy, is there a lot to choose from. This isn't our whole tea collection. In the back pantry is my super secret tea collection. I'm kidding. It's not really secret. It's just where I keep the harder to find teas or the more expensive teas. One of my favorite teas to drink is chai. And I believe chai just means tea. So if I say chai tea, I'm really saying tea. I live in the United States, and typically when people say chai, they mean a type of tea that is very fragrant, highly spiced, with warming types of spices. I don't know how to describe that except for just makes your belly feel warm in a nice way. So when I'm talking about chai in this video, I'm just talking about that type of tea. And it usually has a cinnamon base, maybe some nutmeg or some cardamom, different spices like that, warming types of spices. I'm not just talking about tea in general. I've tried many different versions of chai that is sold in my local grocery stores, and some of them are just really sad, but there is one in particular that I love so much. So I'm pretty cheap, and so when I buy tea, it's usually when it's on sale. And this particular brand just never seems to go on sale by me. So I pretty much never buy it and don't feel like I can justify purchasing it unless it's a special occasion. So when I found a recipe online of a chai concentrate that tastes virtually the same as my favorite chai tea, I was very excited. It's not that hard to make, and it's a fraction of the cost. There's two things that I wanted to say. One is that this is not my recipe. I will link the recipe down below. And the other thing that I wanted to say is warning, warning, warning. I have no idea how this compares to an authentic chai. But I sure do love it, and I hope you do too. I don't have a proper mortar and pestle, so what I do is I use, is that the mortar or is that the pestle? I don't know. I use the crushy breaky thing, and I put the spices in a stainless steel pot. That way I can crush them up. That mortar or pestle, whichever it is, I find works the best. I was just trying out a few other things like using a measuring cup and like a little pot to see if that would work. It works like okay, but for me, the other one works best, so that's what I stick with. I suggest that you just kind of use what you have in your kitchen if you don't already have the mortar and pestle for it. You're not trying to ground it into a powder, you just want to create more surface area. So you can get creative with what you use or use a spice grinder if you happen to have one. In the pot, I put 1 whole cinnamon stick, 8 cardamom pods, a teaspoon of black peppercorns, 4 whole cloves, 1 whole star anise. Then I just kind of crush them up to increase the surface area. You don't need it to be a fine powder by any stretch. You just want to crush it to help it release its flavor when you add the water. After it's been crushed-ish, I added grated ginger, and that was about 2 tablespoons. And then I put in 3 tablespoons of loose leaf black tea. In the original recipe, it says that you don't add the tea bags or loose leaf tea until you've boiled the spices for a bit, but personally I didn't notice much of a difference when I tried it and compared it, so I just do the simplest version now. Next, you add 2.5 cups of water. I put it on the stove and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. After it finished simmering, I strained it, put it into a jar, and then added a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And that's it. You just made chai concentrate that is a little bit sweetened. All you have to do is add milk of your liking, and you can make it cold, you can make it warm, it's up to you. The first thing I did was try an experiment. I wanted to see if I could froth up cold milk. Turns out you can't. So that's what I was whisking in the bowl before and pouring into this cup over here. I saw it went flat pretty much right away. I decided to switch cups and just enjoy it over ice. I had the leftover tea and spices that I strained out, and I decided to put them back in the pot and simmer them for a little bit just to see if I could get something extra out of it. I wasn't kidding when I said I was cheap, cheap like the budgie. I remember my dad telling me that his Grandma Muscles, used to have this little tree in her kitchen where you could take your tea bags after you use them, hang them up to dry on that, and then reuse your tea bags. So I guess it's just in my blood. And it turns out you could get an extra little boil out of it. And I had that tea later in the day, and it was great. After that, I wanted to make a hot latte. So what I did is I took a cup and a half of milk and I put it in the saucepan and I frothed it using the whisk. Back in my 20s, I used to work at a golf course, and sometimes people would order off the menu. And so there was a waitress who had been a waitress forever, so she knew every single waitress trick. And one of the waitress tricks that she taught me was to warm up some milk and then use a whisk and froth that, because we didn't have a cappuccino machine. So she would make frothy drinks for people. She had another really good tip where sometimes we would work like a 15-hour day. And so when it was our lunchtime, she said, what you always do is when you sit down for lunch, take off your shoes and socks, and then you switch your socks around, like kind of like rotate them a little bit on your foot. And that way it kind of makes your feet not feel so like kind of like achy, like they've been stuck in the same shoes all day. So that was another waitress trick. So now for the 6 questions I ask myself about every recipe that I have. And I start with taste. This is lovely. I would be very happy with this drink if I got it at a cafe. And so I'm so happy that I can make it at home. Then I ask myself, can I make it in bulk? And yes, you can. So what I was doing this year for Christmas is I made a bunch of like a large portion of this tea, and I used dried ginger. That way I could pack it in like food cellophane bags and give them as gifts. So you could definitely make it in bulk. Then I ask myself, can I freeze it? Well, I don't know. I haven't tried it. I mean, I guess you could technically just put the concentrate in the freezer. I wouldn't freeze it with the milk. You could do that, but also these are already dried, so you probably don't have to freeze it. Then I ask myself, is it easy? Yeah, you just take a bunch of spices and kind of crush them up and add the other ingredients and then let it simmer. Then I ask myself, is it quick? Like, no, not really, because you do have to let it simmer for 20 minutes. So I guess I would just say not really. Although after you make the concentrate, then it's quick every time you use it after that. So the last question I ask myself is, what does it cost? And one portion costs $1.40, and that doesn't include the maple syrup or the milk. So it's $1.40 just to make the concentrate part. And then with the maple syrup, I would say it's probably like $1.75. So you get about 1.5 cups of the concentrate for $1.75, and then you have to factor in the milk. And that concentrate can probably make like 8 different drinks that are 8 ounces that you mix it in with. So that's really cheap. I am now spacing on the math, but that's probably like 75 cents less than that for a cup. So yeah, it's a great price. And if you try it, I hope you enjoy it half as much as I do.